Everything from clothing to household items are getting more expensive each day. The world of fast fashion has complicated clothing production by outsourcing around the world to whoever can sew them the cheapest. And now you, the consumer, are paying the price with rising costs. American Giant is about keeping things simple and close to home. They aren't affected by tariffs because their products never leave the U.S. So when you buy from American Giant, you're taking a stand for hardworking people, local communities, and quality clothes. American Giant directly supports American manufacturers and ensures you aren't footing that tariff bill. Support American-made, tariff-free clothing with American Giant with American Giant. Get 20% off your first order when you use promo code STAPLE20 at american-giant.com. That's 20% off when you use code STAPLE20 at american-giant.com.
One victory over the Chicago Cubs.
Hey, Tide fans, looking for something wild right here in Tuscaloosa? Bring the kids, bring your friends, and come to Bama Reptiles and Ranch in Northport, just minutes from campus. They've got Asian water lizards, tortoises, colorful snakes, and for the horse lovers out there, ranch supplies. They are the cleanest and healthiest reptile store in the state, and their feeders, best you'll find anywhere. If you mention this Stingray sports ad, you will get 10% off of your feeders. Remember, Bama Reptiles and Ranch, where exotic meets extraordinary. It's that time again for the Stingray Show, and coming up on this edition, we are going to be talking about a team that went 5-3 last year in conference and 9-4 overall. They just barely missed out on the playoffs, and the two games surrounding them missing the playoffs were the LSU game and then the Alabama game right here in Tuscaloosa. We are going to be discussing Shane Beamer and the South Carolina Gamecocks and how they're going to do, and can they build on a 9-4 season from last year with Lenora Sellers coming back, as we're going to be joined by a writer who is from Gamecock Central right now on the South Carolina Preview Show.
Hi, this is Tim Brando with a reminder. Those of you on Tide 100.9, look out. You're about to feel the buzz of Stingray.
This is Stephen Ray, a.k.a. Stingray, coming to you live from Tuscaloosa, Alabama.
I'm Heath Hopkins. I'm here in DeSoto County, Mississippi, right outside of Memphis, Tennessee. You know, Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot. Do you feel that responsibility to pay it forward and give some kid a chance coming up in the ranks, kind of like Tony did for you?
Why do you think I'm talking to Stingray tonight?
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
No, I mean, look, no.
Hey, Stingray, here's the deal. When you get involved with Texas, it's like getting married to a stripper. and let me explain this. It looks good, kind of sexy on the surface. Yeah, but then you get the baggage, you get the drama, you get all that eventually comes with it. And that's what you get with Texas, and that's what the Big 12 learned.
And Heath, any thoughts on our show moving forward?
Hey, to everyone in Tuscaloosa listening here on Tide 100.9. With the Stingray Show, if you don't like it, you better learn to love it, because it's the best show going today, baby. Woo!
And with that, we want to welcome you inside the South Carolina Preview Show here on this Thursday evening. Heath, how are you doing?
Steven, we're doing all right. I'm looking forward to talking about the Gamecocks tonight. How about you, brother? How's your week been?
Been good so far, man. Just been, doing these SEC previews and knocking them out and getting closer and closer to the college football season, because a week from this Saturday, week number 0 happens, as we have Farmageddon over in Dublin, Ireland, between who? Kansas State and Iowa State. I always look forward to the Ireland game, and that will be a week from this Saturday. So, Heath, let's go on ahead and dive into the South Carolina Preview Show. How do you think South Carolina is going to do this year?
Stephen, very shocking. If you look at their schedule, I can't wait until we talk about the schedule here later in the show. this schedule is really good for South Carolina.
Yep.
They get off weeks at really good times, right before big games. If they come out good or great, I kind of hope South Carolina comes out good and not great. But because if you come out great, you're going to falter down the stretch. But if you're good and you build it up to great, you could be running peak toward the end of the season.
Yeah.
This schedule has set up so well, but I will say this. If there's a small hiccup like there was last year, the Ole Miss game where they just came out flat.
Yeah.
It didn't matter who they played that day. And I'm not taking anything away from Ole Miss because Ole Miss was a good team last year, a real good team last year. Ask Georgia. But,
yes.
But it didn't matter who they played that day against Ole Miss. They were going to lose. I mean, they could have played the Citadel and it could have been a loss how they played that day. I mean, it was horrifically bad. So with that being said, I really like how the schedule sets up. If they come out flat in the game and blow it themselves, that's on them, just like it was last year. And they were one game shy of making the playoff last year. So with that, if they start off good, build to great, this is a playoff team. They could make the playoff this year. Will they? I don't know. I think it all depends on who you lose to and when you lose to them. If you lose two there toward the end, the last couple of weeks of the season, you lose 2 games in November is what I'm saying. Yeah, you're probably not. But, dude, they could make a run.
Here's a little word of advice for South Carolina. Your first game is against the program that Shane Beamer's father built in Blacksburg, Virginia, against Virginia Tech. It is a neutral site game. Do not get too overhyped and emotional about that game because Virginia Tech has not had a lot to brag about or to celebrate over the past few years, and especially since Frank Beamer left that program. Do not let them sneak up and bite you because you are in your feelings about playing where your father coached.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. But, of course, any team can beat any team on any given Saturday. I mean, I don't want to bring it up, but look at Vanderbilt and Bama last year. I mean, no one saw that coming. No one. So anybody can beat anybody at any time. We see that every year in college football. There's always a huge shocker that just wows everybody. So I don't see that happening. And for Shane, just like all of us, look, we all went to school somewhere. Let's just pretend it was your high school or your college or wherever. And you're somewhere else and you got things rolling and you're going in a good direction. You're coming off a pretty good season and you got to play your own. It's not that big a deal. Is the media going to make it a big deal? Yes. Is Shane going to make it a big deal? No.
Right.
No, Shane's not going to make it a big deal. Will his players want to play a little extra for him? Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But Shane's not going to put that on him, and Shane's not going to mention that to him. And so I'm not really buying any of this hype that the media's trying to stir on that first game of the season. Look, it's the first week of college football. We don't need any hype. We're trying to get out there and play. But I got a great feeling that that's all you're going to hear leading up to that. And even if you hear a 30-second segment about that game, they're going to mention it. Shane Beamer plays his alma mater where his dad coached at for 20-whatever years and blah, blah, blah. And, no, you're boring me. You're lazy. Find another angle on this game that actually means something. So, yeah. Does Shane's dad coaching there 20-whatever years have anything to do with this game? No. Shane playing there, being a long snapper during his playing days, have anything to do with this game? No.
Yeah.
So why are we talking about it?
All right. So, Heath, briefly, you talked about the 2 bye weeks. South Carolina's first bye week comes before they go on the road to Death Valley at LSU, and then they have another bye week before they go on the road to Texas A&M. And if you will remember, Texas A&M came into that game last year ranked 3rd in the country there at South Carolina, and South Carolina put it on them. A&M has that game circled, and they really, really want to stick it back to South Carolina there in Aggie land.
Oh, yeah. are there tough games on the South Carolina schedule? Yeah. I mean, you're in the SEC.
Yeah.
Do you have a couple of crazy games back-to-back or multiple road games back-to-back
Yes.
in the SEC? Yeah, you sure do. But how this sets up and the strengths of South Carolina, you kind of look at South Carolina being a favorite in most of these games. I mean, it's going to be a really fun season. And I'll say this, Lenore Sellers is a dynamic player.
Yep.
There's no but to that. He is a dynamic player. The entire offense is based around him. But I'd like to think, Stephen, that even if he got out early, you could still see this team making a bowl.
Yes.
I think that's how good this South Carolina team is, and I don't think people understand that. I think they just think it's the Lenore Sellers show. Let me tell you, there's an NFL draft prospect on that team that we'll talk about later that's getting a whole lot more love from NFL teams, and his name's not Lenore Sellers.
So, Heath, when we come back on the Stingray Show, we are going to be doing a deeper dive into the South Carolina Gamecocks, as we are going to be joined by Jack Viltry, who is a staff writer from Gamecock Central and On3 Sports, to do a deeper dive into the Gamecocks of South Carolina. We will return right after this. Residents of Tuscaloosa, are you guys upsizing, downsizing, looking for college housing, or even relocating for your job right here to Tuscaloosa? If that's the case, then you need to contact Celeste Hagler, owner and operator of First Class Real Estate South Home Group right here in Tuscaloosa. She can help you with the buying, selling, and investment needs throughout the state of Alabama. You can contact Celeste at 205-861-5698. Reach out to Celeste again at 205-861-5698 and schedule a consultation to discuss your real estate goals and to live where you love in the state of Alabama. It's dinner time, West Alabama, and if you are craving fried catfish with tartar sauce on a grilled bun, or maybe even a fried chicken tender with Swiss cheese, grilled onions, and an avocado spread on French bread, that sandwich is called the Jose, then you need to check out the Coker Market, which is located at the four-way intersection just off County Road 140 in Coker, Alabama. Their hours of operation is Wednesday through Saturday, 11 a.m. until 7 p.m. Go by and check out the Coker Market off of County Road 140 there in Coker, Alabama, for community goods and wonderful barbecue. For over 100 years, the Bank of Moundville has been a name clients can trust. The Bank of Moundville is more than just a bank. They're your neighbors, your friends, and your community partners. Their unique approach to financial education has always centered around families. They believe that financially strong homes today lay the foundation for a brighter futures for tomorrow's generation. You can call them today at 205-371-2227. Once again, that is 371-2227 to schedule an appointment to build your financial security. The Bank of Moundville is a member FDIC and an equal housing lender.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Moving right along on these roadways for your Hump Day Wednesday. Nothing more than your typical travels. If you're moving on Lane Wallace and McFarland, that intersection, it's starting to get a little volume, nothing too severe. 43 also starting to slow down just a skosh on the southbound hookup to McFarland until you'll find those usual slow rolls back to Flatwoods Road. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Tammy Thompson.
Alabama fans are all over the world, and we are too. Download the Tide 100.9 app right now in the App Store and Google Play, and take the Crimson Tide everywhere you go.
We want to to welcome you back inside the South Carolina preview show. And Heath, like we were talking about off the top of this show, South Carolina went 9-4 last year in Shane Beamer's 4th year at South Carolina. He is going into his 5th season, and last year, if they hadn't had a blown call against LSU at home and then could have come back and beaten Alabama here in Tuscaloosa, they would have been a sure-in for the playoffs. However, this year they lose 5 stars that were NFL draft picks and others as well. So they've got a little bit of reshuffling and reloading to do. And in order to break down the Gamecocks, we are about to be joined by Jack Vitry of GamecocksCentral.com, who covers the Gamecocks. Jack, how are things with you in Columbia, South Carolina?
Yeah, man, they're good. The season is around the corner here, and getting ready for it to begin in Atlanta. It's going to be a big year for the Gamecocks after coming off the 9-win season, as you mentioned, last year. And times right now are very exciting, but also, cautiously optimistic, since history doesn't show necessarily that South Carolina has the best track record of following up a really solid season like the one they had in 2024.
So, Jack, last year at the end of the year, it was very frustrating for South Carolina because they missed out on the playoffs because of 2 specific games. One of them was the LSU game at home, and then the other one was the near comeback right here in Tuscaloosa against Alabama. Talk about both of those games and then ultimately missing out on the playoffs.
Yeah, now look, those games were very traumatic for South Carolina fans, I can imagine. Even to this day, man, you'll still get some people mentioning the LSU game, and I think part of that's due to that Netflix documentary, Any Given Saturday, that just came out, which definitely harkened back to those memories for Gamecock fans. But yeah, like the LSU game, people want to talk about the what happened with the refs in that game and that pick 6 getting called back on a unnecessary roughness, which I don't agree. I don't think it's the right call in that moment in the game. I think Nussmeier kind of flopped a little bit, but that's neither here nor there. The thing that people tend to overlook and forget about is that South Carolina had a 17-0 lead in that game, right? Point being that simple. And you could also make the excuse that, Lenore Sellers was banged up and didn't play the second half. True. And I think South Carolina wins that game if he's fully healthy, because he was rolling at the time. But the point is, 17-0 lead, and did not continue to have your foot on the gas pedal. You let LSU kind of get back into that game, and from that point on, LSU, who knows if South Carolina ultimately wins the game. They probably do if the pick 6 stands, but you let LSU hang around, and that was a problem there. The Alabama game, kind of a different story, where Alabama really got off to a quick start. Carolina falls behind early, but the thing with that Alabama team is I think there were a lot of mistakes made in that game by Jalen Milroe, and that allowed South Carolina's defense to take advantage and make it a really close game going into halftime, if I'm not mistaken. And then I think a few costly turnovers in the second half kind of killed South Carolina a little bit, shot themselves in the foot, but credit to them. They continue to fight and ultimately only lost that game by 2. The 2-point conversion play on the throw from Lenoris to, I think it was to Dre Jacobs, it was there. It just wasn't a good throw. Point being, if that throws on the money, we're talking about a tie game potentially going to overtime. So, Look, South Carolina came really close to making the playoff last year. And even like the Ole Miss game was the only game where they just did not look good at all. But other than that, this team really had a nice year last year. And it does stink for them, because it's like, hey, if a few things go different in these games, talking about 10 wins, maybe even 11, and maybe playing for an SEC championship. So it is what it is from that standpoint.
Jack, South Carolina is kind of one of those programs, much like Ole Miss, Arkansas State. We can even throw Kentucky in there, where once every 5 years they have a really great season.
Yeah.
And then once every 5 years, they're flirting with 5-7, 6-6. Mm-hmm. It's just been kind of going back and forth. Rarely do they ever fall off the wagon, kind of like how Mississippi State's done it right now. But with all of that being said, South Carolina's definitely trending up. I'm a little bit worried about one thing. Is this entire offense just going to be Lenore Sellers? Because defenses in the SEC will finally key on it, break it down, and they're going to take as many shots on him as possible. Or is Shane Beamer going to be smarter and like, hey, let's spread the ball around and let's teach him how to pass a little bit more instead of using his feet to get out of trouble? What's been the noise and the static out of practice this spring, this summer, and what can you tell us?
Yeah, Lenore's has looked good so far, right? And, that's been the indication that we've gotten that things have been going well for him so far. And look, you're right. I mean, like a lot of what he did last year was a little bit of improvising, right? And kudos to him because it worked at times, right? The Clemson game, South Carolina doesn't win that game if he doesn't break out of a gazillion tackles and making plays happen with his feet. I mean, it was just crazy. You think about that 3rd and 16 touchdown run he had in the fourth quarter to help the Gamecocks take the lead and ultimately win the game. I mean, it's just stuff like that is a part of who he is. And Shane mentioned it a few months ago, I think, that, look, even with Mike Shula now as the offensive coordinator and stuff, and this being Lenore's second year, the one thing they don't want to take away from him is his ability to improvise and make things happen on his own. That's just part of who he is, and that's what works so well. So we're going to see that this year. But you mentioned the passing, and honestly, I think he gets a little bit of a bad rap as a passer. I think he's got a really nice arm. It's just the receivers were just not – you didn't have a number one option last year. You kind of had a mix of guys, and you're kind of just putting it together as you go. And I think this year, the receiver room has a lot of opportunity to be really solid this year. You have Nick Harbor back, Mazio Bennett, Jared Brown, Van Travis Jacobs. Those are your 4 guys returning, but you also have 6 freshman receivers, which South Carolina is really excited about heading into the season. And the running back room, Rasul Faison, the ongoing case of, is he going to be cleared? Is he not? It's been since January, still no answer. Don't know what's been taking so long. So if he can't go, the running back room might be a little bit of a question. You have Oscar Attaway returning. You have Jawarren Howell and Matthew Fuller also coming back. But it's clear that Attaway has the most experience in that room by a mile, considering this is his 7th year of college football. But ideally, you'd like to have Faison cleared and ready to go for week 1. Just don't have an answer on that right now. Nobody does, it seems like. So you're really hoping all these pieces can kind of come together around Sellers. Offensive line's going to look a little bit different with 3 new starters this year, including the center. But the Gamecocks feel pretty good about where the offense is right now, and personally, I do as well.
So, Jack, if you would, you cover South Carolina on a regular basis. Where would you like to see Lenore Sellers take that next step as a quarterback going into this season?
Yeah, just more so passing. I think, again, he's not a bad passer by any means. I think he's a pretty good one. It's just I think we need to see more consistency as far as that goes, meaning like some of the deep balls that he would throw last year, some of them hit, some of them didn't. That's going to happen, right? But you want to see more consistency there. And I think part of that, as I mentioned before, the receiver room, you want to have more potential real targets in there. It's not that South Carolina didn't have them last year. Again, they didn't have a number 1 receiver. They were trying to figure out who that was going to be all season long. They just never really did. But this year, you're kind of hoping multiple guys are able to step up and really take that next step forward as being reliable weapons. Like South Carolina's losing their top target, which was a tight end from last year. So you're hoping you can really fill the void there.
You know, Jack, you mentioned Nick Harbor, and I was a little bit shocked when I was doing my research on the season when I started looking at things, and I was just looking at receivers in the SEC, and I was like, all right, who's going to be some of the big names this year? Very shocked. I was mostly shocked when I saw Nick Harbor's name. He is getting a lot of NFL draft love. These NFL teams love all the things that he does, and he is getting a ton of love. What can you talk about his offseason?
Yeah, so his offseason is interesting. Again, if you don't know anything about him, 6'5", 235 pounds, a absolute freak of nature. I mean, he's got the 99 speed on the college football video game, which, I mean, it's very true. I mean, he's super, super fast. I mean, he ran track in high school, came to South Carolina as run track. I mentioned that because it's interesting. This past year, he skipped the indoor and outdoor track season to focus solely on football. So he had never gone through spring practice at Carolina until this past spring right now this year. So, again, for him, it would always be football season starts in like July for him. And then you would get into going through the season. And then as soon as football ends, jump into the track season. And then he would be running track until like June. So he wouldn't have pads on until, like July of the next football season. So think about it, like missing all spring practice, yet still had a pretty good season last year with over 300 receiving yards and a couple of touchdowns. But the goal for him this year, I think, is to be even better, right? And the potential is there. We hear the NFL draft buzz now that he's a junior, and this is his third year where he can go become drafted and whatnot. And, putting down track is a really tough thing to do for a guy that, if Shane Beamer's talked about, he could have gone to the Olympics. Like, that's how good of a track star that he is. He's super, super quick. And the ability is there in a profession that could probably take him farther than football does in a lot of ways. But he put down that love to focus on football this year. And I think we're going to see Nick really have a breakout year where even if he doubles his receiving yards, that's over 600 yards and potentially like a 5-6 touchdown type of guy. I really like the way that looks, and the intangibles are all there. Really smart kid, knows what he's doing. I think it could work out pretty well for him.
So, Jack, hold that thought. We're up against yet another break, and when we come back, we're going to continue to talk about the offense, the wide receivers, and the running backs. That's on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Stingray Show. South Carolina Preview Show continues after this. Through August the 19th, these amazing deals are going on at South's Finest Meats, including 1 dozen of grade A extra large eggs, $3.38. Crinkle cut fries, which is a 5-pound bag, $6.96. 30 count of Southern style Pillsbury biscuits at $9.49, and a 14 count of corn dogs, $8.45. They also have great deals on chicken, pork, seafood, Ziegler products, and of course beef. You can find them at 3201 10th Avenue right there in Tuscaloosa. Go by there today and check out all of their specials that run through August the 19th. Hey you, looking to upgrade your ride? Alabama One has you covered with auto loan rates as low as 3.99 APR. Up to $500 cash back, and the best part, no payments for 90 days. That's right. Buy or refinance and keep the cash in your pocket while you drive the ride you want. But hurry, this limited time offer ends October the 31st. You can apply today at alabama1.org or by calling 1-800-225-0110. Once again, auto loan rates as low as 3.99 APR, up to $500 cash back, and no payments for 90 days. Remember, Alabama One together.
The best station in the state, breaking down Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Hey Tide fans, looking for something wild right here in Tuscaloosa? Bring the kids, bring your friends, and come to Bama Reptiles and Ranch in Northport. Just minutes from campus, they've got Asian water lizards, tortoises, colorful snakes, and for the horse lovers out there, ranch supplies. They are the cleanest and healthiest reptile store in the state. And their feeders? best you'll find anywhere. If you mention this Stingray Sports ad, you will get 10% off of your feeders. Remember, Bama Reptiles and Ranch, where exotic meets extraordinary. And with that, welcome back inside the South Carolina Preview Show. Hope all is well. Let's continue our interview with Gamecock Central's own staff writer, Jack Ventrell, as he continues to talk about the wide receiver position. So, Jack, if you would, go ahead and talk about the wide receiving position and the running back position on how that looks for South Carolina going into this season.
Yeah, like I said before, so Rasul Faison hasn't been cleared yet with his eligibility case. South Carolina submitted all the paperwork back in January. Still no answer yet. It's funny because his attorney, Darren Heitner, sent in a practice waiver to get cleared last week when fall camp began for the Gamecocks, and that only took the NCAA a few hours to get back to them on and give him an answer. So, and of course, he has been cleared to practice, but still no answer on him playing games. So it makes no sense to me. I don't know what's taking so long. So right now, South Carolina is looking at other options in the running back room, though they're still having, Faison participate in practice and go through, all the normal things that he would if he were playing. Oscar Attaway, Matthew Fuller, Jawarn Howell, your main three guys, and Isaiah Gustave as well, transfer from Colorado, that are going to be in the mix for that starting running back role if Faison can't go. I have a feeling they're going to be leaning towards Attaway, though, just because he brings the most experience by far as one of the few players left from 2019 that played their first season that year. So that's an option there. Had a pretty good bowl game last year, 100 all-purpose yards, and he wasn't even healthy for that game that he started in place of Rocket Sanders. Now, the receiver position, as I said, Nick Harbor, Jared Brown, Mazio Bennett, Vandrevius Jacobs, you feel pretty good about those four guys coming back. A lot of them, again, last year, they didn't have a top receiver with Xavier Legette gone, who had over 1,200 yards receiving in his senior year at South Carolina in 23. Last year, you didn't have that type of guy. This year, I don't know if you are going to have that type of guy, but what you will have, I think, is more experience and guys that maybe can kind of all collectively be a really good group. There's a lot of excitement about the freshmen in that room. You have Donovan Murph, who joined the team in the summer, that has really stood out so far in the early going of fall camp. But you also have other guys in that room, like Brian Rowe Jr. is another guy that had a really nice spring game that South Carolina is really excited about. Malik Clark, right here from in-state in Rock Hill, South Carolina. So South Carolina did a really nice job of recruiting in high school. They got 5 4-star receivers coming in. So kudos to Mike Furry, because, he's a guy that literally was hired at the end of February last year, before spring practice began a few weeks later. And he had to really get a late start on recruiting and was able to go out there and bring in a really solid class of receivers. So overall, there's a lot of excitement about what those young guys are going to bring, and the potential for them to make an impact is very much possible.
Jack, the one thing I wanted to ask you, if you had to guess, is the offense going to finish in the top half or bottom half in the SEC? And will the defense finish in the top half or bottom half in the SEC this season?
I guess I don't really get much middle ground on that. So, I'm going to say, I'll start with the defense for you, Heath. Look, the defense, as we all know, was phenomenal last year. Like, they were so good. I don't think they're going to finish bottom half. I really don't, because it's a 16-team conference, right? I mean, there's a lot of good defenses in this league. I'm going to say South Carolina is still towards the top half of the SEC in terms of defense, just because Clayton White, defensive coordinator for the Gamecocks, and the assistants that he has on staff that have been here for years now have a really good track record in terms of getting the most out of their guys. Last year was just the perfect storm where you brought in really good transfers, had a lot of good veterans on that team that have been there for 4 or 5 years, and it just really worked out perfectly. You lost a lot of your starters. Only 4 of them are returning this year. But that's what you went out and replaced those guys for that you lost. So I feel good about the defense. Not like great just because I don't know exactly what to expect going into week 1 yet. Again, we've only seen them a few times here in practice, and media doesn't get to go to the scrimmages or anything, so we don't get to see that. But from what we hear, things are looking pretty good for the defense so far. So I'd say top half. And then With the offense, I think the offense is going to be pretty good this year as well. I would probably lean towards like maybe a little bit towards the top half. More of this, I would say, kind of like they'll be in the middle of the pack, honestly. I think with both these groups, if I really had to say, like at 8, 9, 7 range, maybe, just because there's so many good offenses and defenses in this league. But with the offense here at Carolina, Lenore Sellers is the guy for the job here with the Gamecocks. He's the straw that definitely stirs the drink. And I think if everyone steps up around him, it's a group that could really go out there and do some good things. I mean, this was an offense that averaged 30 points a game last year. Right. And, obviously there's a lot of SEC offenses that already do that. So given this is another year for Sellers in the league, and defenses are going to have a better idea of what to expect, but he's still a very good quarterback. And I think there's a lot of potential still left there for the taking.
Jack Ventrell is our guest as we are doing the South Carolina preview show. And Jack, briefly, I do want to go back to last year in the bowl game. There was a heated moment between Brett Bielema and Shane Beamer where Shane Beamer absolutely went off. If you would, please recap that sparring between Bielema and Shane Beamer and what ultimately brought that on.
Oh man, that was not what I was expecting. Being there for it was New Year's Eve at the time. I'd already been in Orlando for the week, and I'm just ready for a clean game here. Let's get in, let's get out, get our work done, and get ready to celebrate New Year's. But which of course did, but. Was not expecting the things that happened in that game. The way I look at it is that game will not be remembered for the game itself. It will be remembered for all the other things that transpired. Number one, with the Bielema-Beamer fiasco, but also Nikki Minwari just randomly deciding not to play in the second half, which apparently there was miscommunication with that, where he had told a coach that he was not going to play the second half of the game. Because he ultimately was going to focus on getting ready for the draft and whatnot, but he did decide to come back, play the game, only played the first half, and then he was not there for the second half. So that was a little bit of did not expect that. I don't think anyone did. So not even Shane Beamer. But speaking of Beamer, the whole fiasco, it's so complicated. But the way I remember it was that South Carolina was returning a kickoff where. I think it was Juju McDowell did the T-bar motion. I can't really do it on screen here since it's not big enough, but he did the T-bar motion to signal, like a fair catch, or he's not going to return the kick. He catches the ball, and then he throws it to Nick Harbor on the other side of the end zone, and he proceeds to run it for maybe like 25 yards. So it would have been a touchback either way if he just taken a knee or something. But I think Bielema was kind of ticked off about that because you see later in the quarter, there was an injury to an Illinois player on the South Carolina sideline, and Bielema goes over to check on the player, and he looks towards the South Carolina bench, and I think he said that he didn't look directly at Beamer intentionally or anything, but he did the T-bar motion towards the Carolina sideline, and I'll tell you, I've seen a lot of famous little Shane Beamer clips and stuff from being at Carolina for a few years now on this beat. But I will say there was nothing really compared to how pissed he was in that moment. I've never seen Shane as fired up as he was then and there. And it just, again, it's something where you talk about Clemson being the most hated team for South Carolina. I would wager to say Illinois and Brett Bielema are probably second on that list right now. It's just it's a complicated relationship there between those guys now, I think. So I'd love to see them play again in a bowl game or even the playoff this year. That would be that'd be a lot of fun.
I know we're going to a break, but I'll say this about Bielema. His teams were always salty at Arkansas, but I saw one of his bowl teams there at Illinois a couple of years ago in Tampa. And they're all chippy. They not necessarily trash talking, but they were all chippy. A lot of extra stuff after the play. Bielema teaches that, and I'm okay with that because a million coaches teach that. Shane teaches that. But with that, when they get together, the chippiness, you can't out-chippy me. We'll both say that. that's when the chirping starts, and T-bars and the verbal jabs and everything else.
Yeah.
So, Jack, let's stop talking about last year and talk about the expectation for 2025. That's what we're going to do on the other side of this break, as we will finish up the South Carolina preview show, diving into the schedule and the expectations for the Gamecocks in 2025. We will be right back.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on the Friday edition of The Game, we'll talk to Nick Kelly, one of the beat reporters covering the University of Alabama. We're going to preview Alabama's second scrimmage. We'll do it with Brent Beard from First Coast News. We'll talk SEC and ACC on a free-for-all Friday, sponsored by Brian Hart Construction. We'll take your phone calls starting at 2 p.m. here on The Game on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program in Tuscaloosa. The Game with Ryan Fowler. Weekdays from 2 to 6 p.m. on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
How would you like to live where you love in the state of Alabama? Whether it is you're upsizing, downsizing, retiring at the beach, or relocating for your job, then you are going to want to contact Celeste Hagler, owner of First Class Real Estate South Home Group, with brokers in Tuscaloosa, Orange Beach, and Huntsville. They can help you with the buying, selling, and investment needs throughout the state of Alabama. You can contact Celeste at 205-861-5698. Once again, that is 205-861-5698, and schedule a consultation to discuss your real estate goals anywhere across the state of Alabama. Has it always been your dream to build the pond of your dreams, but you don't know if property you own or are thinking about buying has a good location to build a pond on? You need to contact Honey Hole Fisheries right here in Tuscaloosa County, because Jeff Bagwell will help you decide if property you own or are thinking about buying has a good location to build a pond. You can contact Honey Hole Fisheries at 205-799-0192. Once again, that is 799-0192. And hey, Jeff Bagwell can also order top quality automatic fish and hunting feeders for all of your outdoor recreation. Contact Jeff Bagwell today, once again at 205-799-0192, to help you build the pond or lake of your dreams.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Moving right along on these roadways for your Hump Day Wednesday. Nothing more than your typical travels. If you're moving on Lurleen Wallace and McFarland, that intersection, it's starting to get a little volume, nothing too severe. 43 also starting to slow down just a skosh on the southbound hookup to McFarland until you'll find those usual slow rolls back to Flatwoods Road. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Tammy Thomas.
Follow the Crimson Tide on their journey to another national championship. Touchdown, Alabama! On your home for Alabama sports, Tide 100.9, and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Through August the 19th, these amazing deals are going on at South's Finest Meats, including 1 dozen of grade A extra large eggs, $3.38. Crinkle cut fries, which is a 5-pound bag, $6.96. 30 count of Southern style Pillsbury biscuits at $9.49, and a 14 count of corn dogs, $8.45. They also have great deals on chicken, pork, seafood, Ziegler products, and of course beef. You can find them at 3201 10th Avenue right there in Tuscaloosa. Go by there today and check out all of their specials that run through August the 19th.
I'll share this real quick. Right before Leach died, he was excited that they were going to play Illinois in the bowl game. And he's like, Brett's a great friend of mine. He said he's great until game time, and then he's a jerk.
Yeah.
He said, I can't wait to spend a week with him.
Bielema was fine, honestly. Him and Shane were fine leading into the bowl game. Like, they did the media together and stuff, and things were fine. And Brett seems like a nice guy, but tensions were definitely high, and that was not what I was expecting to see at all. So
I gotta say this real quick, Steven. I know you're counting.
Go ahead.
Brett being a baby about a team. Come on, Brett. Come on, you guys are bumping shoulders after play and slapping balls out of hand.
Illinois was also taking a lot of time to substitute guys. So, I mean, it was both sides were kind of in the wrong that game. So
that's why we love it.
Welcome back inside of our final segment right here on the Stingray Show, the South Carolina Gamecock preview show. Our guest this evening is Jack Veltri. And Heath, I've said it correctly the entire show. So there we go. And he is with Gamecock Central. And Jack, when you go look at the schedule this season, South Carolina opens up in a neutral site against Virginia Tech, and Shane Beamer's father was a legend at Virginia Tech. Talk about if there's any kind of hype or if Shane has said anything about going up against his father's team that he built there in Blacksburg.
Yeah, Shane's talked about it a little bit, and he honestly doesn't really even like talking about it just because, he's so focused on, the game itself. He's ready for that game to come and go just because of he'll be emotional for him, no doubt, and for his father as well. And it's funny because the game was scheduled to be played because your team's scheduled so far out in advance. In this case, I think the game was already scheduled before Beamer was even hired. So it just happened to work out that way. And he's definitely looking forward to it. And the one interesting thing that was said in the Netflix documentary that I mentioned earlier was that, in Blacksburg, Beamer or Shane's known as Frank's son, but he wants to really build his own legacy here at South Carolina and kind of not be, necessarily that guy. He loves his father, obviously, but, he really wants to build his own legacy here, which I feel like he's definitely doing now going into year 5. But, it should be an exciting game out there in Atlanta week 1 on that Sunday, about 17 days from now. And looking forward to it.
So, Jack, I did notice something interesting on South Carolina's schedule right before they play in-state rival Clemson. They also play a squeaky good team in Coastal Carolina. Talk about that game between the Gamecocks and the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, that game will come, again, it's sandwiched right in between the Clemson game at the end of the year, and then you have a really tough road trip right before that in November with Ole Miss, a bye week, and then you go to Texas A&M. That's a really tough stretch right there. And so, Coastal that's a team that I think not that South Carolina overlooks them. I think a lot of fans and a lot of people just overlook it because it's a small school. It's a game that you probably should win, no problem. But again, never don't mess around with these Sun Belt schools. We all remember what happened when Marshall a few years ago went into South Bend and beat Notre Dame. That was a top 10 team. And that could be what South Carolina is by the end of the year, top 10 team looking to solidify its playoff chances. The loss to Coastal would be brutal. So Coastal's a good little team there. They've had a nice track record over the years, and South Carolina is definitely going to have to be on their best game because that's one where you slip up, it can really screw you.
Yes.
Jack Veltri's our guest. Jack, you mentioned the Virginia Tech game, and just looking at the non-conference game for all the folks listening, you start the season with 2 non-conference games. You end the season with 2 non-conference games. You start the season, as you mentioned, Atlanta with Virginia Tech. Then you got South Carolina State in your second game. Then you run the gauntlet of all your SEC games and bye weeks, and you wrap up the season with the Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina and Clemson.
Yep.
That's kind of an ideal situation for South Carolina. Of course, everyone in the SEC has a horrific 3-game stretch. Some teams have a 4-game stretch. South Carolina does have a 4-game stretch, but it is sandwiched in between. But let's talk about non-conference first before we get to the SEC. Is it a good chance that they run the table on this and go 4-0 in non-conference?
They should. I mean, it's very much possible. Like, I think they should beat Virginia Tech. I mean, the Hokies could surprise people, but then again, look at last year. They were a dark horse to win the ACC and definitely did not prove to be that. So I think Brent Pry is probably on the hot seat going into this year. And if Virginia Tech doesn't have a good year, it wouldn't shock me if he's gone by the end of the season. But you look at South Carolina, they're in a much different place right now than Virginia Tech, so they should win that game. SC State, they're going to win that game. And then Coastal can always be a toss-up, but I think South Carolina handles that 99 times out of 100. And then Clemson's the tough one. Carolina has not beaten Clemson at home since 2013. So it's been 12 years. But you look at 2 of the last 3 times that Clemson and Carolina have played, South Carolina has won 2 of those, going to Clemson and winning last year and then winning the year before that. So they've done what it takes to win on the road in Death Valley. Shane Beamer is 2-0 on the road at Clemson, but at home, he's 0-2. So definitely got to find a way to flip that this year. And I think 3-1 is very likely, but also I could see a way in which this Clemson team is very, very good. Top 5 in the country for a reason, but I could definitely see a way in which Carolina goes 4-0.
Jack, they went 9-4 last year. That is the Gamecocks. What is your prediction? Do they get 10 wins this season, or do they take a step back and do 8?
I could see them actually getting 9. I think 9. I think 9 is about where I see them going. I'll tell you how it probably goes out.
Okay.
I think they honestly, I think they're going to start out the season 5-0. I think they're going to start out the year 5-0. Okay. The only tough game in that real stretch is obviously you got Tech, State. You get Vanderbilt at home, which is always a tough game, but I think you can win that game. You go to Missouri, which would be the tough one, where it really could kind of be a loss, but also could be a win. And then you get Kentucky at home to round out the month. You have a bye week and you go to LSU. I think you do drop that game because that game's probably going to be at night. That'll be a tough one. You got Oklahoma and Alabama. I think personally you split those games. That's 2 losses right there. And then you go into the back half of the year. Ole Miss on the road, A&M on the road. I just think it's going to be tough to win at both places. I think you probably drop one of those games there. Though you do have a bye week before A&M, but you've never won at A&M. And then you end the year with Coastal and Clemson. I do think you win those final 2 games to finish the year 9-3.
And Jack, A&M is going to be circling that game because last year they came in number 3 in the country, and you guys put it on them up there often and early to really start off the backslide for A&M that they had to end the year.
Yeah, that was a crazy night. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I think I was at work till like 2 a.m. that night just because you had fans storming the field and stuff, and it took forever for Beamer and the players to get into the media availability just because they're stuck on the field and whatnot. But yeah, crazy night again, beating a top 10 team in the country, and South Carolina again hasn't won at Kyle Field to my knowledge. So it's going to be something to really watch out for this year to see if the Gamecocks can finally do it.
So, Jack, look, man, we have thoroughly enjoyed you joining us for the South Carolina preview show. To wrap it up, any final words that you would like to say about the Gamecock Nation for this season in South Carolina?
Yeah, they're a passionate fan base, man. That's all I can say. They are definitely one of the best out there, for better or for worse. They care. They care. It's you see it in the SEC everywhere, but Carolina is like that too. So, but it's always fun getting to write stories about these guys.
So, Jack, look, man, enjoy covering the last little bit before college football season gets here, and we would love to catch up with you during the season to talk a little South Carolina football.
Yep, absolutely. Have me on anytime, guys. I'll be there.
And
Appreciate
Jack,
it. Thanks
we
so
will
much.
leave you with this. Go Gamecocks. Hey, Spurs up. Let's go.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, so guys, that is going to wrap up the South Carolina preview show. When we come back on the Friday edition of the Stingray Show at 6 p.m., we are going north to Columbia, Missouri, and talk about the Missouri Tigers and how Eli Drinkowitz is going to do this season with his Missouri Tigers. We will catch you on Friday when we will see you then at 6 p.m.
All right, Steven, are you going to have chicken tonight? I'm already craving chicken after doing the Gamecocks.
No, but I will say this, Spurs up, let's go.
I'm getting some fried chicken, brother.
Have some for me, man. Hey,